going to start this week not by looking at climate change, but by exploring the linkages between social and economic development in Africa and climate itself, and look both at contemporary climate risks and future climate change and how those will interact with development. Many in Africa are missing out on the most basic human development needs. A large proportion live in economic poverty or close to poverty. Many are food insecure. A large proportion have no access to clean water or to effective healthcare. This challenge in terms of human development is captured in the Millennium Development Goals. Now, these were agreed in the year 2000 at the millennium, and they set targets for improving the well-being of the developing world by 2015, so a 15-year challenge. There were a number of different goals. For example, goal 1 was to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. And then within each goal, a number of targets. So for goal 1 around hunger, the targets included halving in the developing world between 1990 and 2015, the proportion of people living on less than $1.25 a day. Now, as many of you will know, that $1.25 a day is seen as the threshold below which people are essentially in absolute poverty. Second target was to halve, again over the same period, by 2015, the proportion of people who suffer from hunger. And then also to achieve decent employment for women, men, and young people by 2015. Other goals within the Millennium Development Goals included achieving universal primary education, as education is seen as the foundation for human development, promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women, where women are generally disempowered and unable to have control of their own well-being in many developing countries, reducing child mortality and improving maternal health, combating the big diseases such as HIV/AIDS and malaria, and then also ensuring environmental sustainability, so some recognition of the need for sustainable development as we know it today. And then finally, a recognition that it would be very difficult for African countries and developing countries more generally to achieve these goals without support from the developed world. So a particular objective was to develop partnerships between the developing and the developed world that would enable achievement of these Millennium Development Goals. Since 2015, the MDGs, as they're called, the Millennium Development Goals, have been transformed into the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. These are much more ambitious and wide-ranging in terms of the number of development outcomes that they are targeting. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And there's also a much more explicit mainstreaming of environmental sustainability, recognizing that essentially the ecology of the world provides a limit within which development actually has to happen. So if we turn now to look at Africa in a bit more detail and reflecting back on the progress in achieving the Millennium Development Goals in Africa, so if we look sort of at the stocktake in 2015, we'll see there's still a long way to go, especially when we compare progress in Africa to progress in Asia. So in Asia, many of the goals have virtually been achieved, whereas in Africa, it's been very, very hard. There have been some progress, but not as much as one would have hoped for. There are a number of reasons for this. One of them is just the low starting point. So in 1990, which is the benchmark year for 2015, there were 57% of the African population were in poverty. Then at the same time, we've had population growth doubling the African population since 1990. So while there's been a percentage decrease in poverty, dropped from 57 to 47% between 1990 and 2015, because of the increasing population, the actual number of people who are in poverty has increased from about 280 million to over 450 million. Then there are a number of other sort of underlying political economic drivers for this slow progress, in addition to this growing population challenge and the low starting point. And these relate to political instability. Many African countries have suffered periods of instability, which then makes for poor governance and conflict, which all act to hamper progress on development. But also I think importantly, the extractive nature of many of the resource flows coming out of Africa. So Africa is a resource for many countries in the developed world, which Africa supplies oil and coal, natural resources such as forest products, even food and mineral resources. And many of those flows out of Africa to the global economy have not really resulted in the benefits in terms of economic returns being reinvested for Africans. So the return on investment on those flows has really benefited the global economy rather than Africans themselves.